amazing. Another country. What time is it in Colombia right now?
It's 8 p.m.
It's 8. Okay, so an hour after East Coast. And we have Shiwani from San Jose, BPIGT. Who else do we have? Like for those of you who just came in, please change your name to like your name and the city LC you're from, and also your current role. And we also see Alejandra from New York City. I think you're the IGT NST. Cool. Oh, how do you change your name? Good question, Anna. So if you hover your mouse over your image, you can see the 3 dots. So you click on the 3 dots, you can rename yourself. Cool. So let's see in the chat box. Oh, hi, Rebecca. I feel like I've been seeing you. You've been like coming to our sessions a lot. You're from Austin and you're an alumni. Welcome, alumni. Yeah, so after you have changed your name, now answer this check-in question for today. So what is a word or some words that describe your summer so far? Like think of like maybe a vibe, like are you going for really chill summer, or are you really busy this summer trying to do a lot of like internship, you know, write a thesis or something? So let's see. Someone's busy. Balance, I like that. And learning, we love it. That's why we're here at this session, right, Sierra? We're at this session learning more about ourselves. Flow, that's a really interesting word. Chill, yes, chilling, yeah. Transformation and balance. Wow, we love that. Anything else? Self-development, nice. It seems like a lot of us have this like, you know, trying to better ourselves in terms of like just personal development, learning, growing, which is really cool. So you're at the right session. We're going for more learning tonight. Alejandra said learning, webinars, and lots of biking, exercise. Very nice, healthy. I feel like I should have do more exercise this summer, but I haven't done so. So thanks for the reminder. Cool. So I think, yeah, it's like 6:05 or 9:05. So we can get started now. So before we begin the session, I just want to say again, like this will be a very interactive session with some breakout room activities. So don't be surprised later, but just keep an open mind and listen and speak from a place of compassion. And I hope you will get a lot out of this session. So tonight, our guest speaker is Cynthia Wong. She was LCP of AIESEC in Illinois in 2008. And now she has her own yoga teaching company or entrepreneurship. So she would take this over and introduce herself. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. I've been super excited for this because we get to talk. And that's like the juicy stuff of life. I wanted, just to give a little intro before I slow my slides and my background. I just wanted to say, AIESEC, all of you guys are here probably because of the conversations that you've had. I'm sure the info sessions probably really hooked you all, but what has kept you in AIESEC, in this network, on these calls, these awesome calls this summer, is because of conversations. And so I remember when I would join AIESEC, I was a freshman, and in general, conversations were awkward. Like you just kind of throw yourself into a setting where you don't really know a lot of people. You felt like you were like the boss as a senior in high school, and then you come to this massive school and you're like professors, people, I don't know, everything was intimidating, right? So we kind of started from a place of awkwardness, but that's also this humility is more being humble and open to fresh ideas is kind of like the best place to start. So community is kind of like the source code, if you will. It's like developer talk, is what goes on behind the scenes in your life. And so we can continue to have small talk. Of course, you know, we get the job done. When I've seen, like, even with clients, often you can have small talk, but you can turn any conversation from a stranger you meet, a new colleague, a new AIESEC member that you meet, any client work or new friendships, they can be made up of meaningful conversations all around. So just wanted to share that as well. And I think since I studied marketing and I was in business school, the first thing from day one we heard about was you should network, because you never know when you meet a recruiter and they can get you a job one day. But it felt very like a greedy way of talking about networking, and it didn't really resonate with me. So I know that you guys have probably been talking about networking and AIESEC in the summer and these awesome calls. So this is just another kind of session to reinforce that there's very genuine ways to have networking abilities. And really it comes down to just having fun, insightful conversations. So how do we do that? We'll get there, don't worry. We'll have plenty of time for you guys to have and practice insightful conversations, making them hopefully a little less awkward, which always just comes with practice, and then it just becomes super fun. So I will share my slides really quickly. Let's see, share screen. Woohoo! Okay, hopefully you can see all of this. So let's see, whenever I'm sharing a screen, it's always a little bit slower. All right, so how to have more meaningful, or how to have more interesting and insightful conversations. Just a quick background about me. I'm just gonna scan through this really quickly. So I graduated 10 years ago and I was LCP of AIESEC, Illinois back in 2008, and I did 3 exchanges. Definitely recommend exchanges for everyone. I know this is not the right time, but there will be, and there's also ways after you graduate to have almost exchange-like experiences or meet AIESECers. And so I did a few at nonprofit NGOs. In summer, after my freshman year, I went to Morocco. Summer after my sophomore year, I went to India, and then I took off my first semester senior year and did an internship in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. I also attended, I think, 7 conferences around the world, including International Congress in Brazil, where I met other LCPs and MC members from 100 countries. It was awesome. And also probably traveled even during my study abroad throughout Europe as well. Probably like 27 countries or something like that. Pretty much all without staying in hostels, just like crashing at people's places, and they were all friends I had met on traineeships or conferences. So that is a kind of a trend in my life. And it goes 2 ways. I love hosting. So whenever people were like, can I stay? I'd be like, yeah, come, I have a couch. And then later became, I have an air mattress and a futon. So upgraded a little bit later on, and then downgraded back to a backpack, but that's for later. So I started when I graduated in 2008. I had just kind of been in this nonprofit world, and I started working at this company in Chicago, a media ad agency called Starcom. And my client was Oracle. So I was doing digital media buying, advertising for a big corporate company. And I realized after like a year and a half, when I was up for rotating a client, I realized I didn't have those conversations with my colleagues, my coworkers that I really cared about. Like, I think every Friday morning we had like breakfast team time. And then I started to realize like I had nothing to contribute to that conversation. I loved my colleagues, like they were great, but they just kind of weren't my tribe in a way. And every Friday they would talk about who got the most drunk the night before, what their buddies said, what is going on in Kardashian world and whatever. And that's great, like pop culture, whatever. That wasn't really, I never knew how to relate to those conversations, but I also just knew that I didn't have a lot of similar values. And I wanted to be around people with similar values. So through one of my LC members, we were both graduate at the time, she just kind of sensed that I was looking for another adventure. And I just like reposted it to her on Facebook because I saw the memory. And she was like, hey, there's this company in Malaysia called Mindvalley. It's super cool. Later it became an AIESEC partner. The founder was an AIESEC in the US before. And on the MC, I think. So they were the super diverse company in the personal growth marketing space, online education. And so she found out through someone from AIESEC in Michigan when they were hanging out that they're actually hiring and doing a massive growth. So I ended up applying, got it, and I moved to Malaysia. And that was 8.5 years ago. So I've since then living full-time overseas until 3 months ago, and I came back to the US. So I'm currently in Seattle where my sister is staying. And so I worked at Mindvalley for a couple of years, and then I started something called digital nomading, which I think is more of a trend word now. Back then it wasn't as much of a word, but basically it just means I do contract work in marketing and advertising for different clients, and it's remote, so I'm location independent, which I think like now everyone's realizing like, oh, you can be efficient still and work remotely. It's just, you know, you might just have midnight meetings and stuff, not always as fun, but you can do it. It's worth being able to be location independent, since at least that's a value of mine. So that's what's kind of like fueled me. And then I moved back to Malaysia after a year of that, because I felt like my next stage of growth was there. I worked marketing at a tech company, like a women's safety app. And then also at the same time started teaching yoga and started running a lot of events. So that's where kind of like my event passion came from, and facilitation really developed. So I shared life skills, public speaking workshops at refugee schools. Like literally in Chicago, I volunteered through like organized networks. And in Malaysia, I was like, I don't even know where to start, and I don't really resonate, so I'm just going to start my own. So my friends and I got together and started, and then later on I just continued every week. And I ran monthly live music and poetry events for the music and poetry community, and to expand that to people who wouldn't otherwise normally be part of that community. And we all got to enjoy it together, and be inspired by it. And then I started building immersive yoga sessions. So combining like getting outside the studio and just like going out to spaces like this huge dome and doing classes through sunset, bringing in my live musician friends to add that different element. We'd end with the stars and there'd be candles, and it's just awesome. All these ideas started to come just from conversations that I've had with people, and then thinking like, whoa, what if we did this? And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so now, years later, I continue to travel. I actually don't think I've been to any new country in the past year and a half or something, but I have traveled 70 countries and 7 continents, and it's just an amazing opportunity to come back to the same place as well and see how you've changed. I run yoga adventure retreats around the world, not right now. I've run them in 5 different countries so far. And then also during this time I've realized it's time to move my business online, and also have 3 awesome AIESEC summer interns helping me out to do that. And have a lot of skill sets that they're teaching me, like social media and YouTube and all that. Let's see, how do oh no. Okay, so my kind of life mission is, I don't know if you can see yourself moving. I see you. I don't know. Let's see, I'm gonna do this side. So my mission is connecting people through inspired life and event design. And I think there's definitely power in genuine conversation and networking, that we can turn any conversation into something meaningful, and you don't have to have the same cultural background, you don't have to be the same age group, same profession, anything. So it's a skill I picked up in AIESEC, and I hope it can for you too. I think this is actually my ending slide now that I realize it. So first, yeah, oh no, sorry. It was my second slide. Alrighty. So now it's time for the first activity, actually. And this picture is actually from my first AIESEC internship, when we, as the interns, just like after our day, we would just make random food and then have these most amazing conversations that we learned about life, we learned about culture. Like conversations naturally went to like, know what we experienced and the difference in Moroccan culture from Western culture that we were used to, what's like to be a woman there. Questions went to like, wait, so how in the UK we learned that, you know, we've conquered the whole world, but that's probably not a thing you should do. How do you learn about things in the US in terms of humility towards your own country and history? And then it was like these kind of conversations you don't really have in school, and they're conversations that we can have, say, like I'm still in AIESEC, but like you can have an AIESEC or you can have with friends. So that's kind of where we want to take these 2 activities that we'll do together to become. So the first activity is we're going to get help from our lovely crew, and we're going to put you guys in a breakout room, but first we'll show you a demo. So you don't have to be too nervous just yet. But what will happen is that you're going to ask the other person, what's your greatest challenge right now? You are free to share something in your personal life. You're free to share something in AIESEC, free to share something in your household, if no one's listening and you're comfortable with that. Anything that you want to share, and the other person will give them a few minutes just to speak. And then you'll vice versa, do the opposite. So what we want to do is by the end of the 10 minutes, we want to have a little space at the end for the other person to reflect back or share something that they felt or something that they sensed. So taking active listening a little bit beyond just, okay, being quiet, using eye contact, you know, in the webcam, I guess. Or if you're not sharing your screen, that's all right. We can just listen like a regular phone call that we used to do. And we're going to find balance. So there's giving and receiving in conversations. We can both come in with the intention to learn about each other and also support each other. So create that space of being heard, being held, and then seeing how we might be able to help. So Wendy, if you can unmute yourself and be my demo, may I ask you, what is your greatest challenge right now?
That's a really good question. I think there are a lot of challenges going on right now, but the biggest one is just this feeling of burnout. So, you know, like recently there are a lot of things that happen in our society, and it's very disheartening to see all these news every other day. Like you wake up, look at your phone, and it's like another piece of news. That's really disappointing. And like as AIESECer, or even just as an individual, I always wanted to push for change and advocate for people. So like after this whole period of like receiving like more news and then working towards like, you know, voice out my concerns and try to push for change, it's very tiring. And it almost felt like I'm at like a bottomless pit, like there's no way out. Like I felt like sometimes like however much I do, it's like we're getting nowhere, like we're still here, we're stuck here. So that's like a really big challenge I'm facing right now. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Wendy. And I think kind of echoing your words, I'm listening with this lens of compassion as well. And I think you're doing such a fantastic job. You're aware of what's going on, and you have a lot of self-awareness to know where you're at, and just continue going through what you're going through with compassion for yourself and for others, and know that things will fall into place. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Just focus in the now, and I feel like everything will be fine in the future too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's just a quick demo. Thank you for sharing that, Wendy. That's just a quick demo of what you guys can do. Of course, we'll like flip-flop it, and don't feel like you need to give the other person advice. Just speak what comes from the heart and what you felt as you were listening to the other person. And then we can vice versa. So we'll give 10 minutes for this. I'll stop my screen share. And magically, we'll have a breakout room.
Yeah, we also encourage you guys to like turn on your camera so it feels more personal, but feel free if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. Yeah. And enjoy the next 10 minutes with your buddy.
Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, I'm just looking at all these comments. Awesome. I didn't know IC was happening in Mind Valley. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Vision was an AIESEC. I think you Mish.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And like his company, Mind Valley, has like 30% or 40% AIESECers. So yeah, and I think their like company culture, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like very similar to AIESEC too, with like teams and like a lot of like one-on-ones and all these stuff. So post AIESEC career.
Okay, guys.
AIESEC during my time. So he's a good guy.
Wow, it's amazing.
Awesome. And I'm going to send you all into breakout rooms in 3, 2.
It's like launching a rocket. You're like 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, everyone is gone.
Oh, wow, cool. Okay.
Yay. So we have to remain quiet because it's recorded.
Okay.
I was going to say we can chat, but.
Okay.
You can pause the recording also.
Oh, that's true.
On the plane over to my first traineeship in Morocco, exchange in Morocco, I realized that I don't want to, I guess, waste time. And I've always wanted to kind of be both productive and impactful. And so it's a lot of kind of unwinding from, I think, early school when I was like, oh, if I sleep less, I do more, but that's not really the right correlation to have at all. And so I've always wanted to have impact in what I do. And my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and not having impact. And what I realized in my first traineeship as well was that in Morocco, you end up having a lot of waiting time. So, you know, Southeast Asia is more like 15-minute waiting, kind of late. India is like half hour. Morocco was like 2 to 3 hours. So sometimes we would get really hangry or something. We're waiting for someone and we're waiting to have dinner. But then we kind of realized on those balcony talks that waiting time isn't just wasting time. You can make it meaningful and impactful for yourself. So that's some of my greatest fears, not having impact.
Wow, I totally relate to that. Like I feel this almost the same way too, because our life is so short and we really want to leave something in this world before we leave the world. So sometimes like I also fear, what if I haven't done enough in life? Like I just always wanted to do more, and that stressed me out. So I do think like a good mindset to have is just like, and just sometimes just like to relax and realize that you already have done a lot, you have enough time, and it's okay to kind of relax, take a step back, and you can be more productive later as well. And also, as you said too, just sometimes like the waiting time, it could be something meaningful too, like just, you know, go into a deep conversation with someone who you're waiting with, and maybe you're gonna get something surprising out of it too.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear about another time how you if you can tell me more about the ways that you can infuse this into your LC as a leader as well. I'd love to hear about it. So we're going to stop our convo there, but that's just an example of how we'll give you guys 5 questions. I'll just show them super duper quickly as we kind of prepare for the breakout room. The questions that we'll share with you in the breakout room, don't try to memorize these or write them down or anything, but some questions are, what are you most excited about in life or in XYZ? What's the silver lining to try to see the opportunity in something that may not first seem that way? Has this been a challenge before? Kind of like maybe there's a pattern there, hint, hint, or maybe this is a first time thing. When was a tipping point for you realizing this? Tell me more about this. So those are just a few that we'll share that you guys can use to continue the conversation and dive a little deeper. And you can make it a back and forth. There's no like, okay, half change. You can make it a back and forth conversation. So yeah. Have fun, and we'll let Haley do the magic. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. How are your conversations? Were you guys in a pair, Anna and Abby?
Yes, we were.
Okay. How was your conversation? Do you guys learn something new about each other, or no? Anything interesting?
You can go. It was good. No, yeah, we talked a lot. Maybe not so related to question. Maybe it was like the first question, but we branched off like a bunch of other things. But it was really nice. We got to learn more about each other and each other's goals, and I think we really connected in that way. So that was nice.
Nice.
Be sure to friend each other after this.
Add each
we
other
already
on
are
Facebook.
following on Instagram.
Yeah, send your guys' Instagram handles on the group chat. We can all add each other.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Anyone else? How were your conversations? Does anyone kind of want to share your experience? Did you learn anything new about yourself? Or about like just, you know, having a deep conversation with a stranger you just met?
That's all right as well. We don't have any willing volunteers. I know that Anna and Abby were saying that they kind of used the first question and then it just took an organic flow from there. So hope everyone had a lovely organic conversation and learned about each other and realized that even, you know, virtually we can have these kinds of conversations. And it's not as awkward as we thought. So we wanted to open it up to any questions that you guys might have. We have a list from the kind of questionnaire you guys all received. Sorry, Wendy, if I'm stepping on any toes. I didn't realize.
No worries. No, you're good.
Any questions for us that you guys wanted to ask before we pull out some of the ones from the questionnaire?
I think something that I just thought of, and I think it's really interesting how in AIESEC we always have these meaningful conversations, especially at conferences, where we are in a elite session and we're just going to find another person that we never met, and we go into a deep conversation. But I feel like in real life it might be a little bit different, just because, just like here, you guys put a question of like what we should be talking about, and then we took the conversation from there. But I think in real life it doesn't usually happen that way. We just have to like find ways in which we can like connect that between each other, you know?
Yeah, Alejandra, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Snaps, yeah. Any other reflections or questions that you guys may have? We leave awkward moments because when I learned this in my traineeships, it's like no one usually shoots up their hand and has a question, but after studies show 20 seconds is when a question someone usually raises their hand. I'm looking at the Q&A, so if no burning questions or sharing that wants to be shared with the group, we can go to a couple of the ones in the questionnaire. We've addressed some of these, I think. So I'm going to answer one of the ones, how should I reflect on the conversations I've had? So it's really interesting is that like everything, we kind of touched on this before, that everything can be a self-awareness practice or a reflection practice. And this is not just me being a yoga teacher saying this stuff, but it started long before, and in AIESEC as well, is like when you have conversations from different cultures, you end up learning a lot about your own and the way you think, and you start to question yourself. So I think really like the way to reflect or improve, almost like gain a bigger perspective or an understanding of the big picture, is to just ask yourself, well, okay, why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this? And you might kind of go back enough to realize like, oh, this is because this is the message I've heard on TV. This is like the beliefs of my culture or the social norm of my culture. And honestly wasn't until like, okay, I'm just gonna point out a couple AIESEC examples. I realized an American thing is that a lot of people want to start out saying something as if not to inconvenience the other. So we'll start by saying like, I hope you don't mind, like, is it okay if, if you don't, you can say no, but then it's kind of like, in a way, it's like, yeah, we don't want to inconvenience someone, but it's almost starting off as like, okay, can you do me a favor? And when I realized that I said that a lot, actually the way I realized I said that a lot was when my Russian best friends, she's still my best friends now, she says like, just get to it, what's the question? So like Russian culture, they're kind of blunt, they get to the point. And then I was like, wait, why am I fluffing everything up? Why am I like precursing, like having a precursor of like setting something up as if it's a favor when I'm just literally asking a question, or asking if they can pass the salt to me or whatever. So that was kind of like a reflection point. And I think too, I'll just add one more thing about reflection, is that often what we recognize and appreciate in another, as well as what triggers us in someone else, is often just a reflection of us. And so often we're like, how can you not appreciate yourself? Like, you're awesome. Wendy, you have so much compassion, blah, blah. And you're telling everyone else, like, we should operate from this place of love and compassion. It's because you have so much. And often too, like when we start to work on the parts of us we may not want to see, our shadow sides, and probably we all kind of have some stuff coming up during a lot of time with ourselves we may not normally have. What we realize, what may trigger us in another person is something that we have to integrate ourselves. So if we're like, how can that person be so confident, they're so egotistical or narcissistic, whatever, and then they're maybe not, and it's maybe just you can ask yourself, is that a reflection of me? Are there places in my mind that I need to gain more confidence? And we often find that when we integrate that, it no longer becomes a trigger for us. So I like to use the example of Peter Pan. Peter Pan goes around always chasing his shadow, and then we can't just, get rid of our shadow side of ourself. It's the balance of yin and yang, the light and dark. We need one to appreciate the other, and ultimately we have to walk with our shadows, and integrate those parts of us we may not, want to present all the time, but are parts of us. And so we need kind of yin and yang, just kind of like a conversation. You need at least two people to have a conversation. It's kind of like a football game or basketball game. You need two teams to appreciate the game and have this game of life. So I didn't want to go all philosophical there. That's kind of my answer to one of the questions, and it addresses a couple of the other things. How should I reflect on the conversations I have? Any thoughts and perspectives before we?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, because I've also been trying to, this just happens to be since you do yoga. I've been trying to get into yoga, because I guess trying to find times to I don't know, deeply reflect. It's really, I don't know, do you have any recommendations on how to be intentional about setting that space or time for yourself to reflect on your conversations, and reflect and looking upon yourself, or journaling or anything like that? I guess it's sometimes really hard for me to conceptualize reflecting, looking upon myself when I'm not just walking down the street or listening to music or something, I'm trying to be really intentional about it and just do better.
I think it's awesome, that you're asking this question, and you're asking yourself this, especially at such a time as well. It's such a time to look in the mirror. And I think the first thing I just want to say is recognize yourself, that you're doing this and you're trying to improve yourself and better yourself and just understand yourself more. And then after that thought, step back, take a breath, and be like, okay, this is something I want to do. Let's find a way. And it can just be literally 10 minutes before bed. How do you want to end the day? Maybe writing a few things of gratitude for the day, and then thinking about what happened during the day, or calling up some friends. I would say go meet your friends. I can't imagine you're going to meet all your, a bunch of friends right now. But call your friends, Skype your friend, Zoom your friend, whatever medium you want to use. And then just let it free flow, I guess, what's on your mind. And often it comes that someone says something and you think about it, and as well, and it just kind of goes organically. I guess I don't really have a formula for this, but definitely accountability is great. Just an example to illustrate this: one of my other best friends and I, she's was also an AIESEC, and we worked at Mindvalley along with my Russian friend. And so this friend, we last week had a call for a couple hours, a week ago, because we were both kind of confused about our own branding right now, where we want to take in, and we're building new web pages, and we're building new brands and stuff. And we realized we are both in the exact same place of next level kind of community building than we were before. And so where do we want to take it? What does it mean to do it online now? And how can we help other people that are community builders and community leaders? And so everything we were saying, we were just bouncing back and forth. So I think one way, if we're having a hard time, I was thinking about it for a couple months and I was just stuck. And then to find someone who knows me well, and I always want to know more, we talk about kind of what's on our minds, and that challenge is the same challenge. And we're able to say like, oh, this is what I see as your value, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, I think like we can have our own rituals and practices, but when it's hard to have our own regularly, it's easier and more fun when you can find a buddy to do that as well. And same, I would just to adjust the yoga. I'm super lazy doing my own yoga. I'm like subscribed to things. There's YouTube. I have my own classes I've recorded, but I don't really do them. I do them when they're live, and I do them when I teach. So next week I'm actually starting regular classes if anyone wants to join. But it's the accountability. It's when you put a deadline and a time to it. It's when things get done. It's like homework.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think we're out of time. I think we can stay for, I don't know what it is. I just wanted to end with something I just thought of today. So I'm going to share my screen for like 1 second. And then I'll leave it after to the others to see if we do have a little more time. Oops. So this is just something I was thinking about today during my yoga class with my friends. So if life is a journey, I kind of took this from another quote, but of course, life is a journey. The second part is from another quote about Italy. But I feel like conversations are the dreams that keep returning for the rest of your life. Like things, when I think of people and I think of places and I think of songs, I think of a lot of the feels and the memories and the vibes and the realizations I've had when I spoke to certain people. And so this picture is actually from a group of some of these guys I did yoga with this morning online, and they're in Europe. Half of this group was an AIESEC, and 10, 8, 12 years after we've all been in AIESEC, we went together for a retreat in Morocco. So this is in Marrakesh. And we've just stayed connected all the time because a few of our friends took the initiative to organize this retreat at no cost, just for a bunch of us to come and connect together again. And it was priceless. So we were kind of like, this is like AIESEC retreat dreams or something. But not years later, now almost a year later, we're here together and we've been doing yoga almost every week since lockdown began and helping each other through challenges. And one of my friends, JJ, who was kind of there for AIESEC US back in the day, he was MCP of AIESEC UK, and he kind of helped us when we were rebuilding back in the day. He kind of said to me when I had the question for everyone at the end of, okay, this is another example. So at the beginning of the yoga class, I asked everyone what's something to celebrate, and it was, a little bit harder. We said, oh, I want to celebrate this, I want to celebrate this to celebrate this week. And some people couldn't think of anything to celebrate for the week. At the end of the class, I asked everyone to the person that went after them before to say something that they can celebrate. And it became a lot easier, and we all kind of realized like, oh, when we feel like we don't have something to celebrate, we just ask someone else and they will point out these things that we should be grateful for, that like we should celebrate that we've done and the person we are. So in any case, conversations are kind of the things that life makes up life. So I hope from this talk and this session that you've been able to realize how like easy and approachable conversations can be.
Yay. Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really enjoyed your session today, and I hope you guys enjoyed too. I really feel like this is a really cool topic to think about, right? Just everyone, all of us, because we're all human beings and we genuinely just want this like connection with another human beings. But sometimes like having a good conversation depends on like the other person as well. It's not something that just like one person can do. There's no formula to having able to get into interesting or insightful conversations. But like I always feel like practice makes perfect, even it comes with conversations too. So everyone that you meet, just like everywhere, while you're waiting for the grocery store lines, you can start a conversation with a stranger. And also you can always start with something small as well. So just like what we said today, like when you meet someone, you don't have to ask like, how are you? I'm okay, thank you, how are you? Like those things are okay, but that doesn't really lead to anywhere. But like what we used today, what are some challenges that you've been facing? And that is already a very good start, because you're already showing that you care about the other person, and you're sending out this like inviting message that you would love to have a deeper bond with that person. So there's just like a lot of small things that you can do to make a conversation great. But there's no formula, so don't stress out. Like you don't have to worry about, oh my God, like how can I do this? Just let it be kind of, let it be what it is. Like keep an open mind and also that self-awareness with you. And I think everyone will do great. So yeah, I also, by the way, I made like a document with some tips or some interesting questions that you can ask other people to initiate a fun conversation. We'll be sharing this in the WhatsApp group. So if you like to receive that, please join the group and we can also like keep this conversation forward. But other than that, yeah, this was a really good session. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And I hope everyone else enjoyed this as well. Yeah. Have a good evening, everyone. If no more questions, this is the end of it. But if you have more questions, you're free to stay here. And I think like Cynthia will be happy to like chat with you for a little bit more as well.
Thank you all for tuning in. I know it's very late for some of you.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.